You're sitting alone, screen off, blank wall, and you're completely drained. You haven't lifted anything heavy, you haven't run a mile, but your bones feel like lead. Why? Because inside your head, a storm's been raging for hours. You're replaying a conversation from yesterday, mapping out a dozen worst-case scenarios for tomorrow, arguing with people who aren't even in the room, trapped in a loop of what-ifs, should-haves, and if-onlys. You tell yourself you're being responsible, that by overanalyzing every angle, you're protecting yourself from failure, that by explaining yourself to everyone, you're staying in control. But let's be brutally honest, you're not protecting yourself. You're burning premium mental energy into a void. We live in a culture that glorifies noise. We're taught that intelligence means overthinking, that influence means constant broadcasting, that attention is cheap, meant to be handed out to every notification, every drama, every fleeting distraction. The result? A generation running on chronic anxiety, mental exhaustion, and quiet fragility. Thousands of years ago, the Stoics knew this exact trap. Marcus Aurelius, carrying the weight of an empire. Epictetus, surviving slavery. They didn't conquer their worlds by overanalyzing them. They dominated by mastering mental economy. They understood one brutal truth. Real strength doesn't come from doing more, saying more, or thinking more. It comes from ruthlessly cutting out what doesn't matter. It starts when you learn to think less, speak only when it counts, and lock your focus onto the single moment in front of you. Today, we're dismantling the chaotic architecture of your mind. These aren't gentle tips. They're 7 non-negotiable principles of psychological sovereignty. If you're ready to stop drowning in mental static, hit subscribe. Share this with someone who's a hostage to their own overactive brain. And don't skip a second. Each principle is a tool you'll need. Drop this in the comments right now. I command my focus. I silence the noise. Number 1, stop overthinking, start moving. Watch how you handle uncertainty. A challenge appears, and instead of acting, you retreat into your head. You analyze it from 50 angles, simulate rejection, failure, embarrassment. You run scenarios until your brain short circuits. You call it preparation. Psychology and Stoicism call it fear dressed up as logic. Seneca put it perfectly. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality. When you overthink, you force your nervous system to live through disasters that haven't happened. You're paying emotional taxes on fictional problems. Overthinking is just your ego's delay tactic, keeping you safe in your comfort zone. To break free, you have to cut the deliberation, gather the facts, set a direction, then move. Action clears the fog. The moment you take that first messy step, you'll realize reality is manageable. Your imagination was just exaggerating the threat. Comment: I trade overthinking for action. Number 2, speak less, say what matters. We're addicted to broadcasting, narrating our lives online, dropping unsolicited opinions, calling 3 friends to vent over a minor inconvenience. We confuse volume with value, but constant talking dilutes your presence. It exposes your insecurities, half-baked thoughts, and emotional reactivity. The Stoics treated words like currency. Epictetus taught, let silence be your general rule, or say only what is necessary and in few words. Real power lives in the unsaid. Learn to sit in a room, hear something foolish and not jump in to fix it. Execute your goals quietly. When you stop leaking energy through chatter, your focus sharpens. And when you finally speak, your words land with weight. People listen. They respect you because you don't waste breath. Comment: my silence is my strength. My words are my weapon. Number 3, you are not your thoughts. One of the heaviest burdens you carry is believing every thought in your head is true. A doubt hits. I'm a failure. Anxiety spikes. I'm broken. You've fused your identity to the weather of your own mind, but your brain is a survival machine. It's wired to scan for threats, project worst cases, and generate fear. It's a noise generator. If you think you are the noise, you'll be tossed by every passing mood. The Stoic fix? Become the observer. You're not the thought. You're the awareness watching it pass. When a toxic thought shows up, don't fight it. Don't suppress it. Just step back and note it. My mind is producing a thought of fear right now. That tiny shift strips the thought of power. It builds a moat between your reality and your ego. You realize you don't have to obey the anxiety. You watch it drift by like a cloud while you stay anchored in the present. Comment: I am the observer, not the noise. Number 4, stop explaining yourself. You set a boundary, decline an invite, make a non-traditional choice. Instantly, guilt hits. You draft a paragraph, build excuses, deliver a full defense to people who have zero authority over your life. Why? Because you're terrified of being misunderstood. You think if you just explain enough, you'll earn approval. But over-explaining is surrender. It signals you don't trust your own judgment. You hand them the gavel. The strongest move you'll ever make is realizing no is a complete sentence. Marcus Aurelius didn't justify his life to the crowd. To build unshakable strength, resign as your own PR manager. State your decision. Close your mouth. Let the silence stretch. Let them misunderstand. When you stop needing validation, you stop talking. You pull all that scattered energy back into execution. Comment: my choices require no defense. Number 5, master singular focus. Look at the modern worker. 15 tabs open, emailing, checking phone, listening to a podcast, planning dinner. They call it multitasking. They wear busyness like a badge. But divided attention is divided potential. You're not doing 5 things well. You're doing 5 things poorly, skimming the surface, never going deep. Marcus Aurelius commanded himself, concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness. Focus isn't something you have, it's something you practice. It's the deliberate exclusion of everything else. When you work, close the tabs. Silence the phone. Pour your full attention into the task. When you speak to someone, look them in the eye. Listen like they're the only person in the room. Singular focus turns ordinary effort into exceptional results. It transforms scattered anxiety into a laser. Comment: I give my absolute focus to one thing at a time. Number 6, practice voluntary subtraction. We're sold the lie that success means adding more. More apps, more contacts, more information, more systems. When we're overwhelmed, we add another organizer to manage the chaos. But strength comes from elimination, not accumulation. Stoicism is a philosophy of subtraction. Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. A cluttered mind is a permitted mind. Audit your life with a blade. Unfollow accounts that trigger useless anger. Walk away from relationships built on gossip and complaining. Stop consuming news you can't change. Strip your schedule to the essentials. When you remove the noise, you're not losing anything valuable. You're clearing the runway, making space for the quiet, heavy work of mastery. Comment: I find my strength in what I choose to ignore. Number 7, control your effort. Surrender the outcome. The final reason you overthink, overtalk, and underfocus? You're obsessed with the result. You want a guarantee. If you work hard, you'll get the money, the recognition, the win. Your mind constantly calculates odds, trying to force the universe to comply. That grip is the root of your exhaustion. The harder you try to control the uncontrollable, the more panicked you become. The Stoic secret? Detach from the outcome. Your jurisdiction ends at your own actions. You control your effort, your discipline, your integrity. The results? They belong to fate. When you internalize this, a weight lifts off your chest. You stop announcing your goals. You stop rehearsing failure. You lower your head, lock onto the task, execute, act with relentless precision, then release whatever happens next. Peace isn't found in applause. It's found in knowing you left nothing on the table. Comment: I command my effort. I surrender the result. This is the architecture of an unshakable mind. It's not built on complex hacks or loud declarations. It's built on the quiet, relentless discipline of reduction. When you stop overthinking, speak with purpose. Detach from mental noise. Stop over-explaining. Lock into singular focus, subtract the trivial, and surrender outcomes. You stop being a fragile reactor to the modern world. The masses will keep running in circles, shouting into the void, drowning in their own thoughts. Let them. You've stepped off the noise treadmill. You've entered the quiet arena of mastery. You move with precision. You speak with weight. You've realized the most dangerous person in the room is never the loudest. It's the one who has mastered their own mind. You hit send. Before your phone even locks, your heart rate spikes. You just set a boundary, canceled a plan, chose a different path. But instead of feeling grounded, you're hit with a wave of guilt. So you do what you always do. You open the keyboard again. You draft a massive, breathless paragraph. You over-explain. You hand them the blueprint to your anxiety, hoping that if you just justify yourself clearly enough, they'll validate you, absolve your guilt, and give you the permission you think you need to move forward. Let's be brutally honest today. You're not being polite. You're not being transparent. You're quietly dismantling your own authority. We live in a culture that confuses over-communication with connection. You've been trained since childhood to believe you owe everyone a full debrief for your choices, your boundaries, your preferences. You treat your life like a courtroom where everyone gets a seat on the jury and you're permanently on the stand, defending your right to exist. But here's the psychological reality. Explaining yourself to people who have no authority over your life doesn't build trust. It hands them the remote control to your self-respect. It signals that your internal compass is broken, and you need external approval before you can take a single step. The ancient Stoics saw this for what it is: psychological slavery. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire. Epictetus was born into chains. Yet both understood the same law of human dynamics. Power isn't built through volume, logic, or convincing the crowd. It's built through the disciplined, uncompromising use of silence. A sovereign mind doesn't negotiate its reality with spectators. Today, we're dismantling the exhausting habit of over-explaining your life. I'm giving you 5 Stoic principles that will permanently break your need to be understood and rebuild you into someone mentally unshakable. These aren't gentle communication hacks. They're psychological boundaries that will flip the dynamic in every relationship you have. You'll stop playing the accused. You'll start operating with a quiet, unbreakable gravity. But before we begin, make a choice. Are you going to close this and go back to pleading your case to a world that doesn't care? Or are you ready to step off the witness stand for good? If you're done bleeding your energy into paragraphs of justification, subscribe now. Share this with someone drowning in approval seeking. And don't skip a second of this. Every principle is a load-bearing wall in the mindset you're about to build. Drop this in the comments right now. I withdraw my life from the public courtroom. Rule number 1, kill the defensive reflex watch. What happens the exact second someone questions your choice? A coworker challenges your approach. A family member makes a side comment about your lifestyle. A friend drops a passive-aggressive remark. Instantly, your nervous system fires. Your ego reads it as a threat, and your reflex is to build a wall of words. You scramble for proof. You pull up past examples. You construct a logical case to prove you're right, you're good, and their judgment is off base. This is the defensive reflex, and it's the signature of a fragile mindset. When you rush to defend yourself against a casual question or subtle jab, you're handing them exactly what they want. You're accepting their frame. You're validating their right to audit your life. By treating their opinion as worthy of a full defense, you elevate their status and shrink your own. You're proving their words got under your skin. The Stoics mastered non-reaction. They knew the strongest defense is no defense at all. To become unshakable, you have to kill the defensive reflex. When someone throws a questioning hook, you don't bite. You let it hang. You hold relaxed, neutral eye contact. And instead of a 5-minute justification, you deliver one clean line. This is the path I've chosen. Then you stop. You let the silence stretch. You let them sit in the discomfort of your refusal to play the game. When you stop defending your choices, people realize they aren't up for debate. You strip them of the power to evaluate you because you're no longer submitting your life for peer review. The person who doesn't flinch, who doesn't rush to fill the quiet, becomes an immovable force. Anchor this now. Comment below. My choices require no defense. Rule number 2, walk out of the fool's courtroom. You carry an invisible, exhausting burden every day, the belief that if you just explain yourself clearly enough, you can finally make people understand. You sit in hours-long debates. You draft massive texts. You try to force difficult people to see your side, convinced that mutual understanding is the finish line for every conflict. That's a catastrophic miscalculation of human psychology. The hard truth Stoicism forces you to accept. Most people you're desperately trying to explain yourself to aren't confused. They're committed to misunderstanding you. Their inability to see your perspective isn't an intellectual gap. It's a strategic choice. They benefit from misreading your boundaries. They rely on twisting your words to keep their victim narrative alive. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that trying to reason with an unreasonable mind is pure madness. When you waste your finite mental energy trying to convince a fool of your integrity, you're not being noble. You're being delusional. You're stepping into a courtroom where the judge is biased, the jury is rigged, and the verdict was written before you spoke. To become mentally untouchable, you have to formally withdraw from the fool's court. Let go of the ego-driven need to be universally understood. When someone twists your intentions or mischaracterizes your actions, you don't launch a PR campaign to fix the record. You step back, you look at them with cold clarity, you recognize their distorted view as a mirror of their own broken wiring, and it has nothing to do with your reality. Let them be wrong. Let them keep their false narrative. Walk away with your truth intact. A lion doesn't explain its diet to a flock of sheep. When you stop requiring people to accurately perceive your life, you reclaim massive personal power. Evict the need to be understood right now. Type this: I refuse to stand trial in a fool's court. Rule number 3. Deploy unadorned boundaries. Let's look at how you currently set boundaries. When you're pushed past your limit and finally say no, how do you do it? You wrap it in apologies. You invent a scheduling conflict. You exaggerate how tired you are. You build a mathematically perfect case for why you can't help. You say, I'm so sorry, I'd love to, but my week is insane and I really need to catch up on sleep. You do this because you believe your preference alone isn't enough. You think saying no makes you the bad guy, so you use explanations as a shield to soften the blow and protect your image. But manipulators don't hear your reasons as a request for grace. They hear them as an opening for negotiation. Every excuse you give is just another puzzle piece they can dismantle. Say you're tired? They'll say it'll only take 20 minutes. Say you're busy? They'll ask for next week. When you explain your boundary, you turn a wall into a door with a faulty lock. The Stoic treats a boundary as an executive order. It's a sovereign command that requires zero justification. To become unshakable, you must master the unadorned boundary. Learn that mag. No incur is a complete sentence. When you decline a request, strip away every qualifier, every apology, every excuse. Look them in the eye or type it with absolute clarity. I won't be able to do that. I'm not available for this. I won't accept this. Then, the most critical step, stay silent. The absence of an explanation is what gives your boundary its weight. It signals that your authority over your own life is absolute, non-negotiable, and completely detached from their approval. It projects a quiet confidence that shuts down negotiation before it starts. When you stop building doors into your walls, people stop trying to pick the locks. Declare your authority today. Comment below. My boundary is a wall, not a negotiation. Rule number 4. Let your actions be your only translator. When you adopt a new mindset, change a habit, or set a massive goal, your instinct is to announce it. You sit your friends down to explain your new philosophy. You post your workout routine. You detail the internal shifts you're experiencing, hoping that by explaining your growth, the world will finally respect the new version of you. But words are the cheapest currency in human interaction. Anyone can talk about discipline. Anyone can theorize about emotional control. Anyone can announce a grand vision. Epictetus gave his students a ruthless directive on this exact trap. Never call yourself a philosopher, nor talk a great deal among the unlearned about principles, but live them. At dinner, don't lecture people on how to eat. Eat as you ought. When you constantly explain your growth or your values, you dilute their power. You're burning the internal fuel required for execution and turning it into public performance. You're trying to sell a reality you haven't fully built yet. If you want to become a force of nature, fire your personal PR manager. Stop explaining your life philosophy. Start embodying it, silently. You don't tell your partner you're working on patience. You simply bite your tongue and respond with unnatural calm during the next argument. You don't announce to your office that you're becoming more disciplined. You just show up an hour early and outwork everyone. You don't explain to your friends that you're cutting out toxicity. You simply stop showing up for the gossip and let your absence do the talking. When you stop translating your character into words, your life becomes undeniably heavy. Your actions scream so loudly that explanations become obsolete. You become a mystery to the loud, performative crowd. They'll look at your sudden discipline, your calm, your focus, and they'll wonder what changed. Let them wonder. Let your results be the only argument you ever make. Commit to the quiet grind. Type this. I speak exclusively through my actions.
Rule number 5. Radically accept the villain role. We've saved the most terrifying and most liberating principle for last. The root cause of chronic over-explaining isn't communication. It's fear. You're terrified of being the villain in someone else's story. You can't stand the idea of someone walking around with a negative opinion of you. If they label you selfish, cold, arrogant, or uncaring, it eats you alive. So you exhaust yourself trying to clear your name. You're chained to your reputation. And as long as you're chained to it, you'll always be a slave to the crowd. The Stoics practiced the ultimate form of psychological dominance. They embraced being misunderstood. They knew that if you're going to live a life of high standards, strict boundaries, and unapologetic purpose, you are mathematically guaranteed to upset people who benefited from your compliance. When you stop over-explaining, when you hold boundaries in silence, when you detach from the crowd's emotional noise, they'll call you cold. When you walk away from toxic dynamics without a dramatic exit, they'll call you heartless. When you pursue your own excellence and stop shrinking to make others comfortable, they'll call you arrogant. To become completely untouchable, you have to lean into their disapproval. You have to accept the villain role with a quiet, unbothered smile. You have to look at the prospect of being mischaracterized, criticized, and falsely accused, and decide that your internal integrity is infinitely more valuable than your external image. Let them paint you as the bad guy. Let them tell their friends how unreasonable you are. Let them weave their victim narratives, because you know a secret they don't. The person who doesn't need to be liked is the most powerful person in the room. When you surrender the desperate need to be seen as the good person by everyone, you unlock a tier of freedom most people never experience. You become a sovereign operator, running entirely on your own internal code. The world can scream its judgments. You remain completely unaffected, filled only with the quiet, unshakable truth of your own self-respect. Shatter the chains of your reputation today. Leave this vow in the comments. I am at peace with being misunderstood. This is the architecture of an unshakable mind. It isn't built with loud arguments, perfect explanations, or endless negotiations. It's forged in the disciplined silence of someone who finally remembers their own power. When you kill the defensive reflex, walk out of the fool's court, deploy unadorned boundaries, let your actions speak, and accept the villain role, you stop being a passenger in your own life. You take the wheel. The people around you will feel the shift. They'll test your new silence. They'll push your boundaries to see if the old, over-explaining, approval-seeking version of you will return. Let them test. They'll find that the walls of your inner fortress aren't made of paper and apologies anymore. They're forged in steel. Will it be uncomfortable? Absolutely. Your ego will scream at you to explain yourself just one more time. But you don't negotiate with your ego anymore. You're operating as a sovereign mind. If you've stayed with me through this entire transmission, it proves you have a rare, undeniable hunger for self-mastery. You're not here for cheap validation. You're here for transformation. Prove your commitment today. Hit like to lock in your progress. Share this with someone who needs to wake up and take their power back. Subscribe to join the ranks of those who live with complete, uncompromising intention. And leave your final declaration in the comments. I command my silence, and I conquer my reality. Stay grounded, stay disciplined, guard your inner citadel. I'll see you in the next one.